In part one of this riveting two-part view component demo, we made a view component to tell our would-be shopper how many of a particular product are already in his or her cart. And if time was short, you might just ship it as it is. In fact, full disclosure, I did ship it in that form at first. But it's really just a proof of concept, and if we look carefully at what's going on, we'll find that we have got some inefficiencies. So here I've stopped my view component in the debugger, and you can see we're in the constructor, and it's just assigning the injected cart to the private field. But if we look at what's actually going on in the bigger picture, that's being called from a product summary, and the product summary in the even bigger picture is part of an iteration. In other words, this view component is going to get called 4 times in the case of a collection with 4 elements. So 4 times we're firing up the constructor and calling on our cart service. And even worse, if, as in the case at the moment, there's nothing in the cart, we'll see that the count of lines is 0. And in that case, we don't want to be in this view component at all. So to avoid spinning up the cart 4 times, we're going to have to pass in the cart from higher up the food chain. And what's at the top of the food chain? The controller. So let's get this private field here and comment out the constructor injection here. And then in the controller, let's have that private cart. And we're going to have to use dependency injection to inject it in the controller's constructor. And then we're going to have to pass the cart down the tree, as it were, in the products list view model. So here we're going to have that private field passed through to the public property of the product list view model. But the problem is, of course, there isn't a public property in the product list view model because we didn't do it this way before. So we're going to have to put one in. So let's F12 into the definition of product list view model. And we're going to give ourselves a property there of type cart called cart. So in the principal view now, we've got the problem that as we iterate through, we've got to shoehorn a cart into this section. So we're going to need a sort of a thin wrapper class to do that. So let's Shift-Alt-C for a new class. Call it products and printers with cart. Bring in our models. And here we're going to need the same products and printers object as before. Called, say, product info. And the cart again. So back in the iteration, we need to combine the element we're on with a cart object. So let's go there, and I'm just going to call it temp equals, it's going to be a new instance of the class we just created, products and printers with cart, and the product info is going to be the iteration that we're on. And remember, we put the cart in the new version of the product list view model. So that's going to be model.cart. So now in our partial view, everything's got messed up as well, because now the model isn't product and printers, it's product and printers with cart. And here we're getting it from model.product info now. dot product dot ID. But passing in the product ID is no longer enough. We also need to pass the cart down to the view component. So here we're going to need cart equals model.cart. So now we've got an argument here, the cart, which we didn't have before. So we've got to go to the view component and take that in as a parameter here. So if we accept the type cart, called cart, and that should fit in with the rest of the code there. We don't need this injection anymore. So let's give that a whirl. Wouldn't be surprised if it failed first time because that was quite a lot of edits. And it's the great white screen of death. Requires a model item type of product and printers with cart. Yeah, well, I thought we had that down. Oh, yeah. Right, we've got to pass it the temp wrapper variable, haven't we? Instead of the P. Right. Try again. And there we have it, the new improved view component with high-level cart generation. So as a final obvious refinement, since we've got the cart coming down from a higher level now, we can check to see if there's anything in the cart before invoking the component at all. So we can come in here and say in Razor at if, and we want model dot cart dot lines dot count, and we'll do something if the count is greater than 0. So now, as we come through these iterations of products, if there's nothing in the cart at all, which will be for the vast majority of cases for people that are just browsing and haven't put anything in their cart, we can just skip the view component altogether. And we can tell whether we've got something in the cart through this method here, count. So now, as we swing through this code in the debugger with nothing in the cart, you can see here we've got cart lines count equals 0. That's not greater than 0, so we should not go into that branch. And we don't, we skipped over it. Whereas here we are coming through again, this time with something in the cart. And as you can see here, the cart lines method gives us a count of 1. And so we should drop into the component now. And there she blows. And our original functionality is the same, but supercharged. So in summary, we used a view component to wrap up a repetitive and somewhat tangential calculation in a discrete package without filling our Razor view with spaghetti code. And I got a widget I soon found I wanted to use again in the product detail page. The ASP.NET Core MVC code you've seen me demonstrating here is part of an e-commerce site that, at the time I'm recording this video, is in production at www.cartridgewiz.co.uk. There you can observe this view component cavorting in its natural habitat and also fulfill any needs you may have for compatible printer cartridges. And remember, in programming, if at first you don't succeed, call it version 1.0. I stole that joke from the interweb.